You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Podcast.
1,140 cars were stolen in November across Portland, Oregon. Mine was one of them. Mine being the author of this article, who is Sophie Peel from the Willamette Week. And I've read a bunch of stuff from Sophie. I don't know if I've done any podcasts, but this is a really good article. So she got her car stolen on Thanksgiving of all days. And this is a story of her experience trying to get her car back. And it's really well written. So let's jump on into it. Before we do, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Sean Reynolds. I own a couple of real estate companies here in the Seattle area, and I read the news from that perspective. Okay, let's go. So this was released just a couple of days ago. This story contains footnotes. Yep, we're going to get into that. So at 7:57 a.m. on Thanksgiving morning, I parked my green 2011 Subaru Outback on the northern flank of Mount Tabor and went for a stair run. I left my wallet in the glove compartment and my laptop in my backpack on the back seat. It never occurred to me that they might be imperiled. After all, the houses on the block where I parked are each valued at close to $1 million. At 9:15, I walked the block and a half back to where I had parked my car. It wasn't there. What a sinking feeling. Ugh, horrible. I circled the block. Sure, I was misremembering. There were no remnants of a break-in. No tire marks or shattered glass. It was as if my Subaru had been gently airlifted off the ground. You can envision that. You go back and you're like, oh my gosh, did I forget where I parked my car? Because we've all had that. You get busy, you can't quite remember. It's like, did I park my car in this parking garage? But she probably knows. She probably knew exactly where it was. She's like, oh, damn, it's not here. This is not good. The silver-haired owner of the house I parked in front of was trimming her rose bushes. She said she hadn't seen anything in the hour that she'd been outside. She offered to make me tea and a blanket as I sat on the sidewalk. I called the city's non-emergency line. Well done there instead of calling 911. A police officer called back and filled out a police report over the phone. He explained the process. My car would enter a database of stolen cars. If an officer comes across a suspicious-looking vehicle, they scan the vehicle identification number to see if it matches one in the database. If it's reported abandoned to the Portland Bureau of Transportation, the agency can tow it to an impound lot. Or, if it's illegally parked on private property, the owners of the property can have it towed independent of any city agency. And I'm going to kind of just read through this because it's a good article, and I think I'll interject as needed, but probably not too much here. I just want to get through it. So I asked family and friends to spend their Thanksgiving morning driving around Portland in search of my Subaru. What a drag. You have plans? Sophie got up early. She went for a run. She's getting her, calories out of the way for the day. She's going up Mount Tabor, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is like 293 steps. Elevation gain of like 171 feet. It's pretty darn steep. That's a good workout. So got the workout in, comes back. Oh, no car. So morning, she asked everybody to hey, would you go help me look for my car? It's here somewhere in Portland. It was, after all, just 145 square miles of city to cover. No problems there, right? That's a lot of area. We hit spots known by most Portlanders as places where clusters of dismembered cars are parked on or beside the road. My sister went to Delta Park. My sister's friend Dylan drove along Marine Drive. My mom went up to Airport Way. My dad and I set off on our gay neighborhood chop shop, where cops had recovered 11 vehicles a month prior. The camp, set up along an 800-foot stretch of muddy ground, was tucked behind a warehouse. A man at the entrance of the camp was sharpening a large knife. I said hi and explained why we were there. We trudged down the foot-deep trench of mud, crisscrossing the mire in search of drier spots. My dad trailed behind me in socks and slides, ankle-deep in mud. We're not painting a good picture here. This isn't Thanksgiving fun. This is not good. There were about 8 vehicles in various stages of disassembly. 2 men leaning on a white truck watched as we came down the path. I said hello and that we were looking for my Subaru. They shrugged. As we left, the man with the knife said to look in the alley behind the 7-Eleven. You all know that I really enjoy 7-Elevens, but unfortunately they've got an association with, hey, let's go to the 7-Eleven and do this. You know what I mean? Kind of like not good. On the way to the 7-Eleven, I got cell phone alerts that my debit card had bounced 2 charges, each over $200 at the Gateway Fred Meyer. We headed there, unsure of what we'd do if we found my car. I called the cop who'd taken my police report to tell him. He seemed unmoved. We circled the parking lot with no luck. My sister asked Fred Meyer Security to check their security camera footage. A week later, a corporate representative for Fred Meyer told me only law enforcement was allowed to review footage. For the next 4 hours, we drove at a snail's pace around the area, scouring dead-end streets, residential neighborhoods, and apartment parking lots. When we saw a particularly promising spot, we would slow down and I'd hold my key fob in the chilly wind, pressing the alarm button, my fingers looking redder and chubbier every time. I've done that before. I've lost my car in a parking lot at a concert, a whole bunch of people leave, and you're like, this looks wildly different. How do I find my car? Well, you walk around and you do that boop, 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 and hope that, hit the alarm and hope that your car goes off, because that's how you know you can find it. Several times we passed a man and a woman in their 50s and a young boy who seemed probably about 7 years old, leaning against the hatch of a car packed with clothes and duffels. It was sobering. Their car was home and they'd be spending Thanksgiving outside. On Saturday morning, 2 days later, I got a call from the Portland Police Bureau. My car had been towed by 21st Century Towing at 6 a.m. to one of its impound lots. The police bureau said it was found illegally parked in an apartment complex. The tow employee offered the address, Stark Street Villa, a green and beige low-income apartment complex. The tow lot was hidden between a rickety metal fence. It was a small, muddy lot packed with cars with shattered windows, ripped off rearview mirrors, and front ends truncated by collisions. I paid the tow fee of $266, and the man pushed open the gate, signaling me to leave. I asked my friends if my car would explode if the catalytic converter had been stolen. That's a legit question. I've had just this epidemic of catalytic converters being stolen, right? They told me, no, your car isn't going to explode. It's going to sound horrible, though, but fortunately, Sophie, you didn't have to work with that. The ignition was partially punched in, a little sticky, but it worked. That is really fortunate. I drove out of the muddy lot. The catalytic converter was intact. Juice and Nesquik chocolate milk bottles littered the Subaru's floor. Personal items like work notes scribbled on stray pieces of paper and grocery receipts from my console were scattered about. 2 slices of pepperoni pizza from 7-Eleven sat uneaten on the dash. They had ripped off the rear license plate, disabled the alarm system, and scraped off my Bernie Sanders bumper sticker. That's an interesting one. I mean, all of this sounds like, okay, yep, that sounds about right. They scraped off the Bernie. You're stealing a car, you're like, this car is perfect except for the Bernie Sanders bumper sticker. Who does that? I mean, you wonder about the mentality of these folks, right? It's like, really? You scrape that off? I mean, of all the things to do. Okay. So they had left a hooked iron tool on the passenger seat that curved gently on one end. This tool appeared to have been used to pry open the window so the door lock could be jimmied with another tool. Yeah, pry bar, and then the other one goes in, and then you pop the actual lock. A little leather strap was attached for easy carrying. It looked well worn. The wasteland in my car didn't have a feeling of desperation. It felt like chaotic, messy fun. It seemed like the work of kids. My backpack with the laptop and my wallet were gone, as were letters I'd kept for the past 7 years, ones I had no intention of anyone ever reading. They left my basketball and tennis rackets. As unsettled as I was, they knew what I looked like and where I lived and who had written me letters. I found myself wondering about their impression of me based on the contents of my car. Did they think I was a sporty gal? You got a basketball. You got a tennis racket. Probably. They probably didn't care. I mean, kind of like as we get through this article, it seems like this was probably a joyride. Some kids just, all right, we need to go somewhere. let's do this. And they clearly went to 7-Eleven at some point. After having my car stolen, I do not think Portland is a lawless city or a lost cause. It does not make me fearful to walk when I want and where I want. I do get a pang of anxiety every time I walk out to the car now. Sure, it will be gone with no trace, but I keep telling myself, it's just probability, baby. If not my car, it would have been the next Subaru on the street. If my personal items weren't rifled through, it would have been someone else's. Strangely enough, having my car stolen made me feel, for at least half a day, more connected to a city that is hurting, far from the general ease of my life. That day, I paid careful attention to things I would not have before, like how the potholed streets get worse the further east you go, or the especially wide and lonely streets along Airport Way, or the boy who spent maybe his first Thanksgiving outside in a car that doubled as his home. So that's the basic guts of the story. We're going to read through some footnotes, and I think the footnotes, they've got as much information as that story, but that's the groundwork. The groundwork has been set there, right? So in September, 903 vehicles were reported stolen in Portland. In October, that number rose to 1,031. And November, 1,140. So, I mean, that's straight up by 100 just about each month, right? In between, that is. That's the highest monthly total since the Portland Police Bureau started logging and publishing car theft data in 2015. And double the monthly average in 2019. So far this year, 8,024 cars have been stolen in Portland. That's almost 1,500 more than were stolen in the same time frame in 2017, when car thefts rose to historic levels, and it's the highest number since 1997. Footnote number 2. The Subaru Outback is tied as the fourth most stolen car in Portland, police say, right after 3 popular models of Honda. My car was stolen in Montavilla, the 5th most targeted neighborhood for car thefts, and was dropped off in the Hazelwood neighborhood, the most targeted. But my car was stolen at the least likely time of day. Less than 15% of cars are stolen between 6 a.m. and noon. 40% of them are stolen, 40 to 45% are stolen between 6 p.m. and midnight. So about half. My car is also newer than most of the stolen. The sweet spot is 1995 to 2006 models. And I believe that's because those are the easiest, and especially the Hondas are the easiest to crack into, get going, and they're easy to sell too and part out. There's universal demand for those parts. Portland Police Bureau, here's footnote number 3. Portland Police Bureau says it recovers 78% of stolen cars within 30 days. And 89% of cars reported stolen this year have been recovered to date. That was really interesting to me. 78% of stolen cars within 30 days, within a month, almost 8 out of 10 cars get recovered. And then total, just period, almost 9 out of 10 cars are recovered. But if you think about it, maybe they've been chopped up, parts taken. It's really hard to get rid of a car frame, right? I mean, they're big, they're heavy. You're not going to be like, hey, yeah, I know I stole and chopped this car, but could you, take it through the recycling center and recycle this car frame? No, you just leave it somewhere, right? And that's why these cars get recovered. But after a car is recovered, Police Bureau spokesperson Sergeant Kevin Allen says police usually close the case because there are no leads, or only leads that are considered too time-consuming to pursue and investigate. We just don't have the bodies to do that right now, Allen says. It's fair to say that officers are rarely able to spend time on those investigations. All right, so I'm going to stop there for a second. I spent a lot of time communicating with law enforcement just in general, because here on the Seattle Real Estate Podcast, public safety is a big thing. When communities have strong public safety, they tend to do well. When communities don't, then you've got some issues. You've got stuff going on, and people tend to freak out when there's a lot of crime going on. And in Portland right now, you don't have enough police officers. Police officers don't have enough police cars. I mean, the whole thing, just like here in Seattle, we don't have enough police officers. We defunded the police, and, we had the summer of 2020 where just kind of everything went. It was okay. Defund the police was a great concept until it wasn't. And now we're kind of dealing with that. So things like car theft, crimes like that, those are a lot of the crimes that are being just kind of like, all right, criminals who steal cars know they've got a hall pass. And so they're just doing it. And the statistics, they just kind of prove that. It's like, okay, we've got a hall pass to do this stuff. And that's literally what's going on. I think everybody's aware of it. And there are certain, there's reasons. Drug addiction being the main one. People steal cars and, use money from parting out cars, selling it to a fence, whatever. They get that money. They go shoot up, they smoke it, whatever, on to the next. And it's just this recurring cycle, right? So footnote number 4, in 2019, 2 years after Willamette Week reported a loophole in car theft laws that allowed repeat thieves to avoid prosecution, lawmakers tried to close the loophole. Prior to 2019, if someone was found behind the wheel of a stolen car, they could easily avoid arrest simply by claiming they didn't know it was stolen. The 2019 law allowed more evidence to be used to bring cases against car thieves. Kevin Demmer, the senior deputy district attorney for Multnomah County, says the 2019 law did move the nail, but it didn't put the pedal to the metal. Willamette Week reported in 2017 that repeat offenders often knew what to say to avoid arrest and prosecution. But Demmer says thieves have developed a new script. Criminals are smart, so they know other things to say. The district attorney's office says police referred 1,192 auto theft cases this year, and prosecutors pursued 61% of them. But we had how many cars stolen? What was it total? How many cars stolen total in the year? Have to go up to the beginning of that. But I mean, if you're at 1,000 a month and only 1,192 cases so far this year, they're not catching the vast majority of these cases, right? And we kind of know that. And so the criminals know, hey, this is open season. Go out and steal a car. Even if it is just kids, kids get that message. I mean, you get it on TikTok, all kinds of stuff on TikTok. We've got schools closed here in Seattle area today because of threats, of violence in school systems. And people are seeing that on TikTok and crazy. Demmer says its ability to prosecute is incumbent upon police investigating the thefts. Well, we don't have enough cops. So there you go. That's this is how this works. Whether you think it's good, bad, or indifferent, you don't have enough cops to do the investigation. Yeah, not going to happen. We're the catcher, Demmer says. The police are the pitcher. So he's talking about being a prosecutor versus, district attorney, and the police have to bring him in. And so he's basically making the analogy, cops got to throw us the bad guys, and then we got to catch them, and it's our job to put them away. But we kind of know what the politics of that are looking like in Portland right now. It's not good. We've gone the wrong way, and the city is kind of looking around going, oh. If you followed this podcast much at all, we talked a lot about the gun violence in Portland that has been off the hook. We've given a hall pass to a lot of this stuff. Now we're having to deal with it. Stolen cars included. All right, footnote number 5. The last time the Portland Police Bureau had an auto theft unit was in 2006. Whew, that's a long time ago. Before it was disbanded due to budget cuts. Today, here's another thing that I talk a lot about with police, and specifically in Portland, is these budget cuts haven't been happening just since the summer of love that we had in 2020, right? These budget cuts have been happening over the years, just year after year after year. And right now in, quarter 4 of 2021, there's so much news about, we're going to need to add to our police department. We need to get some cops in here. Oh, this isn't good, because you've got these crime statistics. You've got these patterns of crime that are just literally off the hook. And, mayors in Democratic cities and very progressive Democratic cities, they're kind of looking around going, oh, yeah, maybe some of these policies aren't the greatest, and we need to get some more cops in here. That's That is literally what's going on. If you read the news consistently, you're like, oh yeah, that city, they're all like, we need to do something. Maybe we need to refund the police. That seems to be a common theme, right? Today, the Bureau has 0 detectives or officers dedicated to auto theft, leaving patrol officers to recover cars if they come across them. But Bureau spokesman Sergeant Kevin Allen says an officer investigating a stolen car case is exceedingly rare because they've got bigger fish to fry and literally they can't get to these cases. Same thing here in Seattle. We're letting all kinds of stuff go because we don't have the horsepower to take care of it. It's a numbers game. You defund enough police, you tell police that they're horrible and they're crappy people and they quit. Hard to get them back. You've had how many thousands of years of experience walk out the door because of the way you treated them and defunding them. Didn't know if they're going to have a job. Now we want them back, and that is not going to be a quick process. It's like, we need some more cops. We need some more cops. Well, you're going to have to work your way through that one. And unfortunately, things like this is what we're dealing with. This is what we're working with. Officers don't have time to fully investigate car thefts, he says. There aren't a lot of leads, frankly. So people steal stuff. Nobody's going to say, yeah, guy stole my car, or not my car, but stole that car. You just don't do that in a lot of these instances. You just don't want to get involved, right? So unfortunately, that's where we are. Portland Police Bureau provided raw car theft arrest figures since 2018 with the caveat that the data does not account for possible duplicates or omissions. All right. Well, we can live with that, though. So far in 2021, 861 arrests have been made for unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. That's just such a nice way of saying stolen. That represents about 11% of the cars stolen through November of this year. That's what I was kind of thinking. Roughly, call it 1,000 a month. Seems like that's the number. And with 861 arrests, okay, call it a tenth. Last year, there were 702 arrests. In 2019, 717. In 2018, 680. In other words, arrests appear to be trending upward because the cases are obviously trending upward too. But it's still fewer arrests in a year than cars stolen in a month. That's the bottom line, right? Not a lot of arrests. So if you're a car thief and you know that there is a 10% chance that you're going to get caught, those are some damn good odds. You're going to take those odds. I mean, whether it's for a joyride or whether it's for, whatever, breaking into the car, stealing stuff. I've had that happen. At a park and ride here, I had that happen before the Black Crowes concert. My car got just rifled through. They popped the lock and, got into my car and just tossed stuff out, tossed out my workout gear that was really sweaty from, my workout earlier in the day. I hope they got really my sweat all over them. That's just gross. Allen says that focus teams have helped to significantly knock down certain crimes in the past. Okay. But we also, the crime violence reduction team in Portland, we got rid of that. We've gotten rid of kind of everything in Portland, including like cars. There's not enough cars to go around. The second shift is having to wait for the first shift to bring their cars back. If I get those shifts wrong, sorry guys, but that's literally a thing. And there aren't going to be more cars coming into the Portland Police Bureau, I believe, until December of 2022. And a lot of that's because you've had budget cuts. And if you look at a lot of the news stories where an event happened, like a police car will just get crashed into and you'll go, oh, that's a pretty bad wreck. But then you don't think about it. Well, they're probably not going to straighten that car out. It is structurally impaired to the point where you're going to just total that car. Cops are like any other business. You only have a budget for so much. And then you're like, don't have enough cars. And from what I understand right now, that is a very real thing. So, your car gets stolen. Hey, the cops are you don't have enough cops. You don't have enough funding for all of this. So this is kind of unfortunately just what we're working with. This is the scenario. This is the dealio, right? So the true question is where do you take those resources from? So you've only got so much money in the budget. So where do you take the resources from if you want to go after car thieves? Do you take them from, sexual assault? Do you take them from robbery? Do you take them from homicides? Nobody wants to get their car jacked, and nobody wants to see somebody else get their car jacked. But unfortunately, with the way systems are in a lot of these cities, here we are. You just got to deal with it. And that's why I think you've got a little undercurrent changing with, the last elections we had, with maybe just a scooch more accountability for the people doing these crimes. Here's footnote number 6. Now, that seems like the direction we're heading, and I think people in general are wanting to head in that direction, but it's going to be painful because we're going to have to address some issues that have not been popular issues, like who is doing all of this? Are we going to put them in jail? What are those statistics going to look like? Oh, that's not good. We can't have more people going into jail. That's not good. Police say most car thefts are connected to drug use, period. Which is evident from drug paraphernalia often left in the cars. Folks who are addicted or living or involved in drug use seem to be a lot of times involved in this, Allen says. Usually it's meth and a lot of heroin. Demmer, the prosecutor, says most cases he sees involve someone suffering from addiction. When asked if he thinks car theft is connected to addiction, he says, "Of course it is." This is the prosecutor down in Portland. So all these things kind of line up, right? You've got probably 85% of the folks living in tents, addicted to some sort of chemical substance. You've got a certain percentage that are probably mentally, they've got something going on that's just not allowing them to operate in normal society. So, or you've got a combination of both. And then you've got a certain element that are just straight up criminals, probably addicted to something. So when you're asked, is car theft connected to addiction? He says, of course it is. I mean, it's just not even a question. And so people wanting to skirt around why some of these things are happening. Well, when you hand out free needles, you're kind of encouraging behavior. And when you make places like Portland and Seattle conducive to a lot of this stuff going on, because there's not a lot of consequences for these actions, as we're reading here, it's just kind of happening. So, are we going to have a groundswell going the other way? A little bit more accountability. Seems like we need to, but will we? Yeah, just going to have to find out, right? Footnote number 7. Even as police concede that they can't keep up with auto thefts, some citizens are trying. On the social media site Nextdoor, there's frequently posted collaborative spreadsheet of 52 chop shops. 52 chop shops. So these are known chop shops, right? I mean, that's what some of this stuff just drives me crazy. It's like, all right, it's so open and it's so well known that you've got a spreadsheet, and yet the police can't really do much about it. Don't have the horsepower, don't have the bandwidth, don't have the support behind them. Politicians don't have their back because they're not funding the police department. We've got 52 known chop shops on a collaborative spreadsheet and stolen cars dumped across the city. I had visited 6 of these already. Sophie, the writer, had visited 6 of these already. Most were homeless camps or adjacent to one. Oftentimes you will not see that correlation made. That's very interesting. You will hear about it kind of in an offhand reference, but I think a lot of people don't want to make the correlation of, there's some stuff going on in homeless camps that aren't necessarily on the up and up. These are not folks. Sometimes they are folks just down on their luck and they're houseless. All right. But we've read many, many stories here in the Seattle Real Estate Podcast where there's stuff going on in the homeless encampments that, not good, illegal activities, or adjacent to one. So Facebook groups with membership in the thousands allow Portlanders to post details about their stolen cars. Footnote number 8. A wave of catalytic converter thefts has struck Portland in the past 2 years, thanks to the high resale value of rhodium, platinum, and palladium found in the devices. I've done probably at least a couple of talks on those. I think maybe 5, something like that. National reports estimate catalytic converter thefts have risen by nearly 300% over the past year. So the word is out. Hey, if you steal a catalytic converter, you get a couple $100 for one. Go on your merry way. Do your thing. Mannheim Auto Auction in North Portland had almost 20 catalytic converters stolen from cars on its lot this summer. Catalytic converters from 19 buses and 3 other vehicles were stolen in a single night in September from the bus yard for the Reynolds School District. Vision Auto in Mount Tabor had 10 catalytic converters stolen over the course of the summer. This is an epidemic of crime. It's just, we've let it go and we're letting it go. And here we are. Danny Trung, owner of Danny's Auto Repair in the Roseway neighborhood of Portland, says thieves have hacksawed portions of his metal fence 4 times this year to steal catalytic converters from his lot. Last week, they jumped over my fence and just chopped it up. I ran up here and called the police and they didn't show up, Trung says, who's taken to sleeping upstairs in the shop so he can drive thieves away. People living in their shops. That's how bad it's gotten. I carry concealed. I told the cops, if you guys don't come, I'll do it myself, meaning he's threatening to shoot somebody. So yesterday I talked about City of Tacoma is looking at making a change to their zoning ordinances, allowing electric fences to be installed in areas outside of industrial zone properties, meaning not residential. We're still not going to have the ability to put up a electric wire fence around your home, but basically all other businesses, you're going to be able to do that. And so what you have is you've got, your outside fence. And then within 5 feet of that, you've got a fence that can only be, I think, a couple of feet higher than the first fence. And that second fence is electric. And it won't kill you, but it'll give you a memorable shock, according to the maker of said fence. It's like 7,000 volts of, won't kill you electricity, but it'll be a shocking experience nonetheless. But City of Tacoma is literally looking at changing their zoning ordinances or their ordinances for their commercial properties and industrial and light industrial and mixed use properties to allow them to do fencing because of exact same stories here. People are, breaking into shops and they're breaking into areas with cars and stealing this, the catalytic converters, the cats. A law goes into effect next year in Oregon aimed at curbing catalytic converter thefts. The law makes it illegal for scrap metal shops to buy converters from anyone besides the owner of the vehicle or a commercial seller. All right, there's a black market for everything. That's the way that one's going. You're still not going to stop it, right? Maybe you pump the brakes on it a little bit. Repair shops now offer a new product in high demand, catalytic converter shields to protect against theft. Installation costs $300 to $400. Cale Pelton, a manager at Atomic Auto in Hazelwood neighborhood, says his shop started offering shield installations in 2020 and have put in over 1,000 since then, more than 600 so far this year. And customers coming in after their catalytic converters were stolen jumped 40% this year from last year, Pelton said. It's another source of revenue we weren't expecting, but it's an unfortunate line of revenue because people are trying to stop thieves from stealing the catalytic converters from their cars. What a wave of crime, right? The police bureau hesitates to divulge themes that have emerged from the spike in car thefts, largely because many are anecdotal. But Allen says it's evident in a portion of thefts that thieves aren't simply trying to make money from car parts. A lot of times, the theft has nothing to do with a plan to strip or sell parts. A lot of times, it's just for a ride. People will steal a car, use it to ride somewhere, use it to commit another crime, and then dump it. It's called joyriding. I always kind of affiliated joyriding with literally going to 7-Eleven and getting some pizza, kids making bad decisions, but using it to do a crime, do you want to do a joyride and you might go to jail? But here's the deal. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get caught. So what was once considered, Grand Theft Auto, like the game, it's no longer that big of a deal. It should be Grand Joyride Auto. You know what I mean? Because that's what it is. You're just taking the car for a little spin. We're just going to see, we're going to see what the RPM and the torque on this bad boy is, the Subaru Outback. Nah. The FBI here's footnote number 11. The FBI keeps car theft stats for each state. Little can be gleaned about car thieves from such data since arrests are not often made. But we do know a few things about the small portion of organ thefts that the FBI has data on. Adults aged 20 to 29 are the demographic most likely to steal cars, with 30 to 39 close behind. I would have thought it was under 20, more so than 30 to 39. But okay. So thieves are also overwhelmingly male and white. Just 9% of auto thefts in the FBI data were committed by kids between the ages of 10 and 19. All right. So if you think about that, kids 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, we'll call it 15, maybe between 16 and 19, they do a little bit of theft, but obviously it is less than those in the 30 to 39 age category. All right. So I thought the footnotes to me on this article gave a really good backdrop of, all right, we know cars are being stolen. What's the dealio? Now you kind of know. So I think those were some really interesting boots on the ground statistics from somebody who literally experienced this and then wrote about it. So Sophie, thanks for writing that article. You're a good writer. Keep up the strong work. Yeah, this was interesting to look through. And when I first saw it, I thought, wow, she wrote an article about what had to have been a tough experience, especially on Thanksgiving. Hey, instead of sitting down and having that big Thanksgiving dinner, would you guys mind helping me look for my car? I mean, nobody ever wants to get up and say that on Thanksgiving. What a horrible way to spend your Thanksgiving. And I'm sorry, Sophie, that you had to experience that, but I'm glad you found your car. I'm also sorry about the other stuff that you lost, because that sucks and you'll never get back. But thank you for writing the article, because I think it brings a lot of information to light and kind of gives you an idea. All right, here's what's going on. Here's the stats. Here's what we're dealing with. So what do we do to make this better? That is the grand question that none of us seem to have an answer, but we're kind of going in the direction of maybe some more police and maybe some more accountability for said criminals with actions. But places like Portland, Seattle, and other cities, that has traditionally not been a good answer, and it's been met with great resistance. So are we going to see crimes like car theft just continue to rise until somebody says, Uncle? Kind of feels that way, right? Uncle, got to do something. Yeah, not acceptable. But here we are. All right. That's it for me on this episode of the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. Thanks so much for sticking with me to the bitter end here. I will catch up with you again very, very soon. Until then, stay safe. We'll talk again. Bye for now.